Hello there, this is Rom Wills, and I'm coming back at you again, raw. Today, I'm going to discuss an interesting topic. Most black men are not trying to be players. Let me repeat that. Most black men are not trying to be players. And, this is an interesting topic because usually when I hear a black woman's complain about black men, and even to be honest with you, keep it 100, even other women who dealt with black men, to hear their complaints about black men, there's always that player word thrown out. Now I know it's cool, get that rep, but the reality is most black men are not trying to be players, and men know this already. But I want to talk about that today. When I going back years, and I'm saying years, this isn't really an official study or anything. I mean, there are some official studies out there about black men in fatherhood, American black men in fatherhood, especially from the CDC, that shows black men are the most involved fathers, despite the propaganda out there. And, that's an important enough subject to be its own separate video. But other than that, there hasn't been any real studies that I know of. If somebody knows of something different, please enlighten me. That really talks about the relationship habits of black men. No official studies. Now, all I have to do is go not just on observation, but just on talking with men about their relationship choices going back to the 80s. Because even though I started writing about relationships in the mid 90s, I was thinking about writing books and stuff back in the late 80s. And the thing was, I was going to write about American black men's relationship choices. And it actually started out as something with regard to, black men and white women. Why was this happening? Now, that's a whole other conversation. But in talking with these men over the years and just compiling notes, and and sometimes you just having a regular conversation, be it in a barbershop, on a corner, the exclusive section of a club, wherever, you realize one thing: most brothers are not trying to be players. If you listen to them talk, yeah, we'll say, yeah, we're giving up that player card, or, we might call each other that. But the reality is, hear what I'm saying, most black men want to be in a solid relationship with a solid woman. And preferably a black woman for most of them. I mean, despite the propaganda, most black men marry black women if they're going to get married at all. But that can be another conversation. But for this conversation, most men are not trying to be the lovers of many women. Now, I did some videos on that and everything, and some men might want to learn the techniques really just to get that one woman. And even some men well, let me back up a bit. I would say there's three groups. I mean, I know I've divided men into select and non-select, and the Mr. Goodbars, masked men, gamesmen, and nice guys. But a man who's trying to be a player can come from any group. And a man who's trying to be in a stable relationship can come from any group. There's a lot of men out there who women would classify as Mr. Goodbar, or even a good man, who they just want one woman to chill with. There's a whole lot of guys like that. They could be players, but they're not. And then you got some men who seem like they're non-select, but shoot, they don't care. They'll hit on it whoever moves. But here's the thing: we're talking about a small group of men. That's the key. That's the key thing to understand with all of this. A small group of men. And I was said I was going to divide it into maybe three general groups as far as this. First, you have those guys who they committed to that. They ain't gonna be solid at anything. They just go around do whatever they gonna do. You know, they want to fuck their girl and your girl and their mama's best friend's daughter and all of that shit. But that's only a small percentage of men. Then you have like a next group that's a little bit larger but still a small percentage. They solid guys who they'll get married and at most they might have a mistress or something. But here's an interesting dynamic. If you look at the relationship they have with that mistress, she is basically a second wife. And see that's a dynamic. See, one of the things in this culture, we try to promote monogamy, but that's actually not the norm in much of the world. Different cultures practice polygamy, which is like, for those whose heads is under a rock, is a practice of one man having several wives. And let me go off on a little tangent here. To understand it is not always something controlled by the husband. It could be you have some cultures where it could be two situations. Like one situation, a woman, she's older, she been with the dude a while, she got her shit she want to do, but she don't have any desire to keep satisfying her husband sexually. She might bring a young girl into it just to take care of his needs sexually while she go off and run her business or whatever she want to do, and she cool with it. And then you got another situation, and this is definitely controlled by the woman, where in some cultures, mainly some indigenous cultures, where it was not seen as a good thing if a woman didn't have a husband. So you might have a woman who has a husband, and her sister can't get a husband, so she might talk to the husband, say, hey, look, marry her, bring her into the family and all of that. And from a westernized point of view, that might look like, oh yeah, more pussy. Nah, because that sister coming in has is built like a water buffalo with the disposition of a wild gorilla. So he got put up with it. So it's different situations. And then you have some West African communities in Europe. That's an economic thing. You might have the husband and wife number one who go out to work, while wife number two, she keeps the house and the kids and all of that. So it's not just fuck fest. But that's a completely other video. And to be honest, there's other gentlemen who promote that more. But it's not just a simple cut and dry thing where a man has this total control. But even in those situations, even in polygamous situations, that man is showing a commitment to a woman. And the largest group of guys you have are guys who they just want either a girlfriend or a wife. That's it. They just want a girlfriend or a wife. They ain't trying to be player. Like I said in another video, there's a lot of guys that ain't been with that many sexual partners. It's unusual for a man to have more than 10 sex partners in his lifetime is an accomplishment. It really is for most men. That they didn't have to pay for. Even even if you look at some of the guys who have those high sex counts, those dudes a lot of times have some serious mental issues. And I'm just be real with it. Yeah, you can. There's some stuff they might have good because they can get along with a bunch of women, but if you just indiscriminately having sex with whoever, you gotta wonder. It's like, well, dude, don't you believe in quality? Because all those women are not gonna be quality or sane. So if a man's doing all that, you gotta think about that. And contrary to popular belief, though a man may penetrate a woman physically, a woman penetrates a man's mind mentally. As I'm fond of saying, a man makes love to a woman's body, but a woman makes love to a man's mind. She can plant a thought in there. That's why people talk about these simps and they like do all this stuff for women. That's what the principle is. You know, like I'm very careful how much time I spend around a dumb talking woman. I'm critical of every. If she say the sky is blue, I'm critical of it. I'm thinking about it because a smart woman can plant a thought in a man's mind and don't just kind of marinate it and nurture it, and whatever thought she wanted to happen, it'll happen like in a few months. That's why I don't get off. I don't get with that idea of women being victims and all of that. They had their weapons, but I digress. See, one thing to understand about a natural man. One thing about to understand about a natural man. I'm gonna go a little deep here. Uh, the people in my circle, in my subculture, as you would say, we have a concept. We call it the house of the man, and it's basically the four attributes that all men possess. Now, what happens in this particular in Western culture is that men typically develop one of the aspects and not so much the other three. They are focused on that one they're comfortable with. Now, in indigenous cultures, a man was basically trained to develop all four. Now, the house of the man, say a man has to be these four things to really conduct a productive relationship, especially with regard to a woman. A man he has to be an eagle. That eagle sees ahead. He sees the path ahead. He knows the steps to take to accomplish a goal. That's the icon of the leader. See, that's what leading really means. Leading doesn't mean being a dictator. When a leader leads, a leader sees the direction and sees ahead and sees the steps to get to a goal. A man in his natural character wants to do that. See, a lot of women rebel against that, but they don't realize by our nature, the way we think, we can see men tend to think in a logical manner. Like you say, you have a married couple, right? They want a house. A woman has a vision of this big house on a hill. She'll have the vision of it, but she won't have the ability, to see how to make it happen. The man who's the ego sees the steps to make it happen. And see, the smart woman, all she has to do is say, she has a vision. Okay, this is where we want to go. Right? She hands it over to the man. The man takes the steps to make it happen. And that's what the ego does. See, all men have that. And that's, the ego is seeing ahead. He's seeing the dangers ahead too. See, too many women, they just see the end result. They'll see the house on the hill, but they ain't seeing the traps and all of that. See, the men, we see everything around it. We see all the dangers and everything because we thinking step by step, and we want to make it practical. So that's one. Now, for a man to lead, he needs to be in a family. So a natural man always wants to be that. He wants to be in a family. He wants to lead. The natural man, the second pillar, and I'm not giving this in any particular order. The second pillar of the house of man is the warrior. He wants to protect. He wants to protect his family. He wants to protect his clan. Now, the true warrior is not like some guy just fighting all the time, though he has that ability, but he's going to confront any enemies. He's going to confront any enemy to the clan, to the family. That's in our natural character. We always going to protect. We want to do that. And this is any man in any culture and anything. We want to do that. The third tier is the third cornerstone of the house of the man is the hunter. That's the provider. That's the one who goes out there and gets the food. In this society, that's the one who makes the money and brings it home for his family. We want to do that. We want to do that. And then the third, the last pillar is the healer. We want to restore. We want to, that's Mr. Goodbar. Shoot, we want to make love to that woman. But see, one of the things with the whole house of the man thing, women are finding the healer attractive because the healer, he's entertaining. The healer's bringing a smile to the face, bringing that good. But a lot of times women avoid the other men. They don't want to listen to the eagle. They act like they don't need the warrior. And they like, well, I got my own money. I don't need the hunter. But here's the thing. In all men, in every single man, there's that drive to do that, whether a woman like it or not. And that's really what frustrates a lot of men, especially a lot of black men. Not so much that they can't do it, because a man gonna do it. A man gonna make sure his family fit. But then you got a bunch of women who act like they don't need a man to do that, or they try to get a man who hasn't developed those things to do it. They'll try to get the guy who's developed the healer to do it, but the healer hasn't developed that hunting skill because he hasn't needed to. Because you got a woman providing for him. You got a woman saying, hey, you can lay up here. The woman think, oh, I got my own direction. I don't need him. But see, a man wants to do it naturally. And black men want to do it naturally. And see, there's a lot of talk about that whole alpha male and beta male and all of that. And, I might use it for reference and everything. But the reality is every single man is a potential alpha male because he is the alpha male of his clan. Every time that man has a child, has a family, he is creating a lineage. That man is potentially the progenitor of a subgroup. Because that man, he could have 2 kids. But those 2 kids, they could have 2 kids each, and, it just multiplies. So, maybe in 500 to 1,000 years, there might be millions of his descendants. That dude's the alpha. We focus a lot on, mitochondrial DNA and all that. It's just easy to trace. That woman can only get impregnated by a man. And, all those women who want to think, oh, well, they don't need a man and all that. Y'all are whack. I'm going to just say it straight up. Y'all are whack. You cannot violate the laws of nature just because of some political doctrine of feminism or a goddess movement or anything like that. The laws of nature cannot be violated. Only way a woman gets pregnant is through a man. So that seed is just as important as that egg. That seed is so important. Let's put it like this. Let me hit y'all with some deep knowledge now, and any doctor can verify this. Women, actually, a lot of women have fetuses all the time without a man. They call it fibroid tumors. If you cut open a large fibroid tumor in a woman, if you cut open a large fibroid tumor, you have all the parts of a baby. All the parts, but it's a jumbled mess. Any doctor will tell you that. Any doctor that deals with it. In fact, it was my late sister had she had a couple fibroids very large, and she had some other difficulties, so she had to have a hysterectomy. I saw the picture of it. I couldn't tell the womb apart from the fibroids. Now, what the man's sperm does is bring order. So, and that's really what a man's nature is in general, to bring order to his environment. See, a man wants to do these things. And in order to do these things, a man can't be player. We don't want that. And I'm going to tell y'all something deep. In my book, Nice Guys and Players, on the back of it, I talk about nice guys who trying to just get that woman, but then I also talk about players who can get every woman they want, every woman except the one they actually want. Now I'm going to tell you how deep this is. Over the years, I've had several bona fide lovers of many women. Guys, they didn't tell me. The women told me. I could see them in action. The women came back and said, hey, this dude right here. I think In fact, I can't think of one man over the years who just embraced that shit. Now I can think of one guy I know who embraced it after being like in a monogamous relationship for so many years, and even him is like, man, this shit kind of whack. You know, these men are trying to get out of that. They were asking me for like ways to get out of their lifestyle. Hey, one dude, that dude was on the verge of suicide. Had another dude, he was like, you know what? He was like, Rom, I wish I could be one of these ordinary dudes. He had dudes ready to leave their hometowns and everything just to change up. And like one of the things I do in coaching with them is give them ways to develop sexual discipline. And then you even have some guys, they on the verge of being that like lover of many women, and they say, Rom, I don't really want this. Yeah, I get pussy all the time, but or enough, but I don't really want this. And the reason I wanted to talk about this because too often women, especially black women, even though I did say other women of other cultures who might deal with certain brothers, they'll say the same thing, but it's too much of a stigma. It's too much because it's like you have the whole black male community being identified by the actions of a few. And a lot of the resentment that we see on social media from brothers is because of that. And I've talked about this in other videos, so I ain't gonna go over it too much here. But a lot of these guys, they just shoot. If you listen to what they're saying, they all they saying is, damn, look, we ain't trying to, we just trying to be there for you. But see, the problem is with a lot of women, and this is something deep. I kind of need to do a separate video on this, and that's the imprint. What happens is you get a lot of women who, because their first 2 or 3 men were players, because usually if they had sex when they were young, they ain't have it typically with the nice guy or the regular dude. They had it with the star athlete or the pretty boy, whatever, or the player. They tend to want that the rest of their lives unless they consciously made aware of it. Because that imprint thing, and like I said, I gotta do a separate video on that. I know I got about 1,000 videos I gotta do. But see, once a woman is imprinted with a player, and that imprint just means this: subconsciously, she will only seek out players. That's why some women will say all men are dogs. Well, in her perception, all men are dogs, because that's all she's ever dealt with. Like, let me give you a quick story. I was at a party one time, right, when I was a teenager, and there was this dude was a straight player. I ain't gonna call his name because, well, believe it or not, I think we're like weirdly related. Anyway, there was this like real shy girl there, right? And I'm gonna be honest. Looking back, she might have been on like a high functioning autistic system. To be honest, looking back at it now, knowing what I know now, and this player dude, he started dancing with. He's slow. This dude grinded her up against the wall, like just grinded her, and he opened up something in her, man. He opened up something. She spent the rest of the night trying to grind up on all the dudes there. And knowing what I know now, she probably, the next dude or the first dude she probably had sex with was probably had the same energy as that player. Probably had the exact same energy. And then what's going to happen? She's going to keep going for that energy. So a lot of women out here, they complaining and stuff. That's just who they been with. Like ne'er-do-wells. Unfortunately, there's a lot of women out here whose first experience was molestation. Or their first experience might have been a train ran on them. Something like that. Or, rape. So what happens is their energy, their subconscious don't make a distinction. Consciously they might try, but this energy is drawn to that same type of negative type of thing. If a woman's first few experiences was with some outstanding, intelligent individual who had a high spiritual moral nature, shoot, a lot of women be making out. That's who women be checking for. But most of the time, their first experience was with some scuzzy dude. So that's what they tend to see. That's what they seeking out, even if they don't realize it. And sometimes I've coached women too, a lot of women, probably more women than I have men. And I point that out to them. First, one of the main questions I ask is, tell me about the first 3 men you had sex with. And I say, okay, do a composite of their personality. And once they do that composite, I say, don't they look like the guys that you always been chasing? They'll say it's always even down to body types and everything. So one thing the women had to realize, one, deal with that imprint. And I will do, well, if enough people ask for it, I'll do one on the imprint, because the imprint for men is slightly different. But once women deal with that, of course, every dude is a dog or a player, because that's all they're going to see. Subconsciously, they're not going to respond to a dude who does not carry that energy. See, a lot of, look, and I'm gonna have to cut this video short, because we about to go for another hour, because people who don't know me as well, they'll see me cutting up talking about some basic stuff. They don't know how deep I can get. I'll tell you about some subconscious shit going on with you, and that's what's really happening. But suffice to say, right now, let's just understand one basic thing. Most black men are not players. They're not trying to be. Most black men are trying to embody the house of the man. They trying to be that leader, that eagle that sees ahead. They trying to be that warrior that protects the family. They trying to be the hunter that provides for the family. And they trying to be the healer that makes mad, passionate love to that woman. So let's put to rest that whole idea of most black men being players, or all black men are dogs, all that shit, because it's not true. Okay. Anyway, I hope I ain't get too deep on y'all. Anyway, I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.